Over the next 8 months, throughout the investigation,
if I were to be asked,
my entire life was fueled by an extreme amount of anger. It completely consumed me. I felt like I was burning from the inside out all the time. But it was also mixed with a sense of hope, because up until that point, I truly believed in my heart that justice would be served, and that because I had followed all the things that I was told to do, call 911.
So I began really intense analytical talk therapy for almost 2 years right after that, and that was really awful. We just kind of talked about the trauma, and I would often leave in tears, and just felt more traumatizing than healing. And then
now I know. Asked.
Now, if it was the world of Shay and Shay's legal system, the mandatory punishment for any kind of incest, rape, sexual assault, domestic abuse, domestic violence, it would be immediate castration. Mandatory, immediate. If you inflict that pain on somebody, you do not deserve to feel any type of pleasure in anywhere near that area.
I gave it a year. I gave it a year to see if the police were going to do anything for me. I felt like they weren't doing anything, but I really hoped that they would. When I reported the crime, I had done a huge amount of my own detective work so that I could give them everything possible within my power. I found out who the people were because they had lied about their names. I found out where they lived. I found out who their friends were. So after a year, I sat down with the police, and the investigator said, we might give the ringleader a phone call in about another year or so. And that was their solution. I got married at 19 years old. I was brought up ultra-Orthodox, religious, Jewish. I was a rabbi's wife figure for 5 years. We ran a synagogue and a community center, and there was a lot of really nice times that came with that. And that was the positive aspect of my marriage. But something that was happening behind closed doors was a lot less happy-go-lucky, a lot less positive. It was very shortly after I married my ex that I started realizing he was abusive, physically and emotionally, and I finally got the courage to leave at 27. So essentially, I left my family, I left my ex. I had a little baby at the time. He was not yet 2 years old, and I had my little girl, and she was 5. And I left my religious community, and I left my religion.
I'm Shay. I'm a photographer. I was 14 when I was raped by my drug dealer. I was staying at a friend's house, PJ, and he had been living in the basement, and he basically pulled me into the basement and held me down by my ponytail. I said no, he said yes, and long story short, I've been battling PTSD as a survivor for about a decade now. And it's been a privilege to be a survivor and to experience something like this, because it's made me such a much stronger person than who I was when I was born.
I'm Livor Shai, I'm a DJ, I'm a trans woman. Around the age of, when I was around 10 to 12, 13, I've been molested by a member family. And in the beginning it was like an innocent game, if we can call it. I remember that I didn't even understand what he's doing, because I didn't have this thing in me, like my body wasn't developed enough. I tried to understand what is this game, and like what he gets from it, or what I get from it, but in this point I was more silent, and it was more in my head. I just tried to do whatever I can because I didn't want to be punished. In some point I made him stop.
They were going.
My name is Selena, and in 2009, I was raped. The man who raped me was the drummer in my ex-boyfriend's band and had gone to high school with my roommate at the time. After my rape, I called 911, and 2 police officers came to my home, and they put me in the back of their police car and drove me to the hospital. What happened at the hospital is a bit of a blur for me to this day. However, I received a rape kit and was assigned a investigator and sent home a couple hours later. In the weeks after the incident, I was completely unable to go in my bedroom. I slept on the couch in my living room and just could not enter that space. 3 weeks, just about 3 weeks later, I finally, with the support of my roommate, was able to get the courage to open the door, and together we removed all the blankets from my bed and trashed my mattress. About a week after that, I found myself standing in my bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror, just trying to see if I could see me in my own reflection, and I couldn't. So I went and got a pair of scissors, walked back to the mirror, and I began to chop and chop and chop until I had no hair left. When I think back to that moment for me, I remember feeling like I just wanted to disappear. And even more than that, I wanted to cut away anything that made me feel feminine. I wanted to strip myself of anything that made me desirable. And I wanted to become invisible. That felt safe.
My name is Lucy, and I am a professional vocalist. And what happened to me was in 2003, when I was almost 19 years old. I think it was a couple weeks before maybe it was 1 week before my 19th birthday. So I was 18. It was about 6 weeks into my freshman year of college at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I wasn't much of a partier. I had never drank in high school. I was straight A student. But when I got to college, there's a huge party atmosphere at University of Michigan. So I went out to a party with a friend of mine, and not being an experienced drinker at all, I was at a party with her, and someone gave me a beer, and I started to drink it, and I was dancing with this guy who was very tall and very handsome, and quickly noticed that I was becoming incapacitated. So I don't know if there was something in the drink or if it was just brand new to alcohol, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. I left the party with this guy. I'm not really sure how. We just left. And I remember not being able to walk. We walked kind of across campus to his dorm. And I remember the first time where I really felt unsafe, because I didn't really realize what would happen. I had no idea the consequences, and I was just completely, couldn't walk, couldn't speak. He had my arm draped around his shoulder and was carrying me, and my feet were dragging on the ground. So when we first walked into his dorm room, I knew I was in trouble, but there was nothing I could do about it. He started taking off my clothes. I was not comfortable, but again, I was not in a position to say or do anything. I was completely incapacitated, and it was almost as if I was not in my body. And I think that's kind of that response that you have to kind of a fear situation, is that some people get in that fight or flight, but I just froze. And then I remember that he put in a condom. I mean, he undressed me as much as he could, but mostly from the waist down. He had sex with me. He used his own spit as lubrication, which I remember was not enough. I was in an extreme amount of pain. And I remember that he used a condom, and he kept saying to me, "It's okay, it's okay." And I must have passed out at some point. I remember waking up with my shirt on, but nothing else on, and a blanket covering me on some cot or couch in his dorm room. And he had the lights on, and he was eating pizza or something. And he also had the door open. And this guy was also a freshman at the school. And I remember there was someone who came by, and someone else was in the doorway, and he was talking to this other guy and introducing me, and it was just I was more conscious then, and it just felt like a dead animal pelt or something, just some dead trophy lying in his dorm room. And so I kind of laid there, and that was probably the most humiliating part, I think, was the being kind of shown off. And that was the part to me that makes it almost completely unforgivable.
And I'll have everything behind.
Go to the
14.
rape culture tells me that my body doesn't matter, that my feeling of safety does not matter, that my sexuality does not matter, and that I do not matter. If my rapist could have been brought to justice, and by justice what I mean is, at the very least, the sheer acknowledgement that it happened, that this person violated my body, it would make me feel like I matter as a person. Like the sheer non-acknowledgement of these acts simply leaves you feeling like, well, it leaves you feeling invisible. It just does. It leaves you feeling like you're nothing. And so in an ideal scenario, what I feel is needed, I feel that our system needs to stop victim shaming. I feel that our system is designed to make the victims feel like they did something wrong and to protect the people that assaulted them. So I think that our system needs to be changed.
As soon as I decided that I had to speak out about what happened to me and that would kind of lead me to gaining my voice back, I just did a Google search I just Google searched what to do if you were raped. Seems like a really basic Google search. And the first website that came up was RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. And I was reading on their website, and they just have amazing resources for survivors as well as for families and friends.
And I would definitely make the sex offender list much more I would make it so that the sex offender list would be more operational than it is now, and not have 18-year-old boys who, slept with their 17-year-old girlfriend with her consent that are now in jail because her parents went after him and prosecuted him, and now he's on the sex offender list for the rest of his life, cannot live near school. That's not fair. I was 14 dating an 18-year-old. It's not, and it doesn't do anything near what it's supposed to do. It doesn't prevent, if I had my way, I would make them all wear bright pink jumpsuits and have some form of collar that beeps anytime you're 50 yards within a school or...
If I were to be asked if anything could be changed, what would it be? Through my life experience and through my research, I would say that we need to be able to report sexual assaults online. It shouldn't be up to a police officer to decide whether or not you can report this crime based on how much evidence you have. Why would I have evidence that someone put their penis in my body?